You think a CIA manhunt begins with men in a black car? It doesn't. It begins with a keystroke. Somewhere in a building in Virginia, in an office with fluorescent light and no windows, an analyst types a name into a database, and the name is almost yours. One vowel apart. That is the entire distance between your life and everything that happens next. This is what a CIA manhunt does at every level. To the people running it and to the man it lands on. And here's the part nobody explains until it is far too late. This machine does not need you to be guilty. It does not even need you to be the right man. It only needs your name to fit the file. Level 1. The analyst. Level 1 has never fired a weapon and never left the building. She is a targeting analyst in the Directorate of Analysis, and her day looks nothing like a spy film. No dead drops, no parking garages. A desk, 3 screens, and a volume of classified reporting that would bury most people by lunchtime. Her work runs on the intelligence cycle, and the cycle has 6 stages: requirements, collection, processing, analysis, dissemination, feedback. She lives in the middle of it. Somebody above her defined the requirement. Somebody in the field is doing the collecting. Her job is to take raw intelligence that arrives in fragments: an intercepted phone call, a name in a captured notebook, a report from an asset who might be telling the truth and might be selling it, and turn those fragments into a human being that the rest of the machine can act on. For months, one of her fragments has been a name. An alleged facilitator, connected to the Hamburg cell that produced the September 11th hijackers. The name is a common one, in a part of the world where names travel in variations. She has a folder, a network diagram, and a gap where a person should be. Then a cable arrives from a partner service in the Balkans, a border checkpoint, a German passport, a name that matches hers, almost. One vowel of difference, the kind of difference a keyboard barely notices. Doctrine calls what happens next a target nomination. It moves up through her section, coordinated, reviewed, passed along a chain of people who each assume the person below them checked. Her section chief signs. Somewhere above that, someone she has never met approves. Understand how her work travels, because the travel is the danger. She briefs her section chief, who briefs a senior officer, who briefs someone she has never met. By the third retelling, her carefully hedged assessment, same name, unverified, recommend further collection, has been compressed into something that fits on one line of a morning briefing. Possible facilitator, in custody of a partner service. The hedges are the first thing the machine sheds. It is not that anyone lies, it is that summaries of summaries have no room for doubt, and decisions 3 levels up are made from the summaries. Here's the sentence that matters at this level. If the analyst gets something wrong at this stage, the error travels with the operation all the way to the end. Remember that sentence. It is about to become your biography. Level 2, the checkpoint. Now meet the name. You are a car salesman from a mid-sized German city. On New Year's Eve 2003, you were on a tourist bus heading for Skopje, on a cheap holiday you booked in anger after a row at home, which is the least conspiratorial reason for travel that has ever existed. At the border, a guard takes your passport and does not give it back. The bus waits. Then the bus leaves and you watch it go with your seat still warm on it. By evening, you are in a hotel room in the capital, on the top floor, curtains drawn, with 3 men who work in shifts and a door you are not permitted to open. The questions circle for hours and land nowhere you have ever been. A mosque in Hamburg. Men you have never met. Whether your passport is real, which it is, and whether you bought it from a forger, which you did not. You ask to call the German embassy. No. A lawyer. No. Your wife, who is waiting for you to call and will draw her own conclusions when you don't. No. And notice what you are at this point, legally. Nothing. You have not been arrested, because arrest is a legal category. It comes with a charge, a record, a number someone can call. There is no paperwork with your name on it that anyone will ever admit to. You have not been arrested. You have been acquired. It lasts 23 days. 23 days in a room, while somewhere far away, people you will never meet discuss you in a language of cables and cryptonyms. This is not a thriller premise. Every detail of this level happened to a German car salesman named Khalid El Masri, taken off a tourist bus at the Macedonian border on December 31, 2003, and held for 23 days in a Skopje hotel room. Remember his name. He comes back at level 7, in a courtroom in Strasbourg. Level 3, the apparatus. While you sit in that room, look at what is working around you, because the scale is the point. Start with the first thing almost nobody understands about a CIA manhunt. Most of it is not done by the CIA. The men in your hotel room are local. The border alert was local. According to the most complete public accounting, 54 governments participated in the agency's rendition and secret detention program, hosting sites, opening airspace, handing over people. A quarter of the countries on Earth, doing the holding, the watching, and the driving. When the agency does watch someone itself, the doctrine is specific. A full covert surveillance package can run to around 14 operators working in rotation, 5 vehicles with concealed cameras, a dedicated van with long optics, motorcycles for traffic, all built around a single principle. No element of the team is ever visible long enough to register as a pattern. You could be under that canopy for weeks and never see the same face twice, because that is the entire design. The teams are trained to read one thing above all: disruption of pattern. A man who has taken the same route to the same market every Thursday for 6 weeks and suddenly changes it for no logistical reason gets flagged, written up, fed back to the analyst, who adjusts the model. Everything feeds everything. Which is worth pausing on, in your case, because you had no pattern to disrupt. You were on a bus going on holiday. The most suspicious thing you ever did was buy a ticket to Skopje in December. Above the street sits the technical layer. Signals intelligence, run in coordination with the NSA. Sophisticated targets know their calls can be monitored, so they use cutouts in couriers and burner phones, which means the collection is not really about listening to conversations. It is about mapping an architecture. Who calls whom, through whom, and where the seams are. And underneath all of it, the layer nobody dramatizes, the one that will carry you: logistics. Rendition is, before anything else, a logistics business. The aircraft that is coming for you is a Boeing 737, tail number N313P, owned by a company called Premier Executive Transport Services, a company with no offices, no staff, and directors who exist only on paper. Between 2001 and 2005, an official European inquiry counted 1,245 CIA-operated flights through European airspace. Filed flight plans, handling agents, fuel invoices. The plane that will carry you out of your own life is, administratively speaking, a business charter. Level 4, the transfer. On day 23, the men in the room change their tone. It is over, they say. A misunderstanding. Before you go, a formality. They film you stating, on camera, that you have been well treated and are on your way home. You say it, because you would say nearly anything, and because you believe the word home means what it normally means. The drive ends at an airport, in a room with the lights on. What enters that room is a rendition team. Figures in black, masked, fast, silent. The doctrine behind the next few minutes has a name: capture shock. You are beaten, stripped, hooded, drugged, put in a diaper, dressed in a tracksuit, and chained to the floor of the aircraft, and every one of those steps happens in a fixed order, because there is a procedure for this. Hold on to that detail. None of what is happening to you is anger. Nobody in that room hates you. It is a checklist, executed by professionals, on the wrong man, working from a file that says otherwise. The engines run for hours. When the hood finally comes off, the air is thin and cold and smells of dust, and you are on the other side of the world from anyone who is looking for you. Over the entire history of the CIA's detention program, 119 men went through some version of that door. Keep that number. Level 5 is about how much of it was a mistake. Level 5, the site. The place has a nickname, because everything in this world has a nickname. The Salt Pit. A disused brick factory north of Kabul, on a road with no signs, converted into the kind of facility that does not appear in any budget line a civilian will ever read. Your cell is concrete, a bucket, a blanket that smells of the men before you, water from a bottle that tastes of fuel. Look at who is running it, because this is the level where the machine's design shows. The officer in charge of the site, in its early period, was junior. By the CIA's own internal accounting, undertrained and underprepared for detention operations. This is where the program put him anyway. In November 2002, a detainee at that site named Gul Raham was chained to a wall overnight, half-dressed, in the cold, and died of hypothermia. No one was ever charged. The officer who ordered it was later recommended for a performance bonus. Far above the cell block, the operation looks clean. There is a coordination layer, the joint operations model, the common operational picture, where information from the site, from the analysts, from the partners flows into one room so that decision-makers see a single, current version of you. And the whole structure is compartmentalized. The analyst who nominated you will never see your cell. The interrogators reading her file will never meet her. The pilots know a route, not a reason. Compartmentalization has an official purpose. It limits the damage if any single piece is compromised. It also does something the doctrine does not advertise. It guarantees that no single person is ever entirely responsible for what happens to you. Everyone in the chain did their job. The chain did the rest. And since this is the level where the movies live, be accurate about the men the movies are actually about. The agency's paramilitary arm, Special Activities Center, Ground Branch, is real. Former Delta Force and Special Forces operators, language-trained, medically qualified, working in teams of 6 or fewer, rehearsing an objective until the movements are automatic, because the execution window of a capture operation is measured in minutes, and the margin for error is roughly 0. They are the sharp end of everything the analyst, the watchers, and the coordinators build, and they are the narrowest slice of the whole operation. You will never meet them. That is the joke buried in your file. The most feared capability in the entire structure was never required, because you were captured by a border form and a spelling. The machine did not need its fist. It needed a clerk. Now the number from level 4. 119 men held. In 2014, the Senate Intelligence Committee published the CIA's own reckoning. At least 26 of them, more than 1 in 5, did not meet the agency's own standard for detention. That is not 1 in 5 convictions overturned on appeal. That is 1 in 5 men who should never have been in the building, held by a system with no judge, no docket, and no telephone number. You are about to become the most famous one of them. Level 6. The mistake. In March 2004, your passport reaches a technical team at headquarters. They test the paper, the binding, the print. The result travels back up the same chain your name once traveled down. The document is genuine. You are exactly who you said you were, in a hotel room, on the first night, months ago. Here is what you would expect to happen next, because it is what would happen in any system with a reverse gear. A flight, an apology, a scandal. Here is what actually happens. Nothing. Because the question inside the machine is no longer whether you are innocent. Everyone relevant now knows that you are. The question is how to release you without revealing the program that took you. And that is not an intelligence problem. It is an administrative one. Cables go back and forth about what you have seen, what you could describe, which airstrip, which faces. You have become a different category of object, not a target, a liability. You know none of this. All you know is that the interrogations have stopped meaning anything, and the days have stopped ending. So you use the one lever a man in a concrete room has. You stop eating. The hunger strike runs for 27 days, and by the end of it, the guards are watching a man disappear into his own frame at a site that officially does not exist. The decision to end it finally climbs to the top of the building, and then out of the building entirely. The matter reaches the National Security Advisor of the United States, Condoleezza Rice. When she is briefed, she orders your release. Shortly afterwards, in Berlin, the American ambassador quietly informs the German Interior Minister of what happened, with a request: keep it secret. Do the arithmetic on that asymmetry, because it is the whole level in one line. Taking you required 1 analyst and a hunch. Letting you go required the National Security Advisor of the United States. 2 more months pass between the passport result and the plane. Level 7, the road, and what it costs. On May 28, 2004, they hood you again, fly you west on a different aircraft, and drive you up a mountain road in the dark. The car stops. They hand you your suitcase, and they tell you to walk downhill and not look back. You walk, and you wait with your whole spine for a shot that never comes. Around the bend, there are 3 men in uniform, Albanian border guards, who very nearly arrest you, because a gaunt, bearded man walking out of the mountains at night with a suitcase and a story about the CIA does not sound like a victim. It sounds like a lunatic. They put you on a plane to Frankfurt instead. Home is the last checkpoint, and it fails you too. The apartment is empty. Your wife, after 5 months of silence, has done the only rational thing available to a woman whose husband vanished off a holiday bus. She has taken the children and gone to her family abroad, believing you walked out on them. The machine never touched her. It cost her a marriage's worth of certainty anyway. Now do the accounting, because this is the level nobody puts in a title. German prosecutors eventually issue arrest warrants for 13 members of the Rendition team. Not one is ever extradited. In the United States, the lawsuit is dismissed before a single fact is heard, not because the story is false, but under the state secrets privilege, because the story is too secret to be allowed into a courtroom. In 2007, the Supreme Court declines to hear the appeal. The case was true, and that was the problem. It takes until December 13, 2012, 9 years, for any court anywhere to say what happened. The European Court of Human Rights, Grand Chamber, 17 judges, unanimous. What was done at that border, in that hotel, at that airport, and in that prison was torture, established beyond reasonable doubt. It is the first judicial confirmation of a CIA rendition in history. The compensation, paid not by the United States, but by Macedonia, is 60,000 euros. Divide it by the days if you want a number for what a wall of state secrecy thinks a man is worth. It takes until 2018, 15 years, for any government to say sorry. Macedonia, under a new administration, issues a formal apology. The United States has never charged anyone. The analyst whose hunch started it was not fired. According to reporting by the Associated Press, she was promoted. And to be precise about what this machine is, run patiently, at its best, it is the thing that found Osama bin Laden, a decade of analysts chasing one courier's name to one compound in Abbottabad. That is real, and it is most of what it does. The same architecture, the same cycle, the same quiet professionals. But it has no reverse gear. It cannot give back the 5 months, or the marriage, or the name it borrowed and returned used. A wrongful arrest ends with a judge. A wrongful rendition just ends, on a road, in the dark, with a suitcase. Because in the end, a CIA manhunt is not really an event. It is a temporary organization, assembled out of existing parts, pointed at a name, and dissolved when the name stops mattering. The analyst goes back to her portfolio. The surveillance teams redeploy. The site takes new arrivals. The shell company files its paperwork and waits for the next tail number. The file does not close. Files like yours are simply moved. And somewhere in that building in Virginia, in another office with fluorescent light and no windows, another analyst opens the database and types another name. And the name is almost somebody's. That's the machine.